And welcome to this week's QPR Preview Show ahead of the trip to Hillsborough to face Sheffield Wednesday. Last week we faced the team second from the top. This week it's the team second from the bottom. And hopefully it pans out much the same because, of course, QPR beat Stoke 1-0 at Loftus Road for a third consecutive win, taking us to 10 points from the first 6 league games of the season. And Dave, the goal was a long time coming, but did you ever doubt it would?
Yeah, well, at some points in the game I did, but I just thought it was a really good game and good performance. I mean, even if Stoke had nicked that 1-0 or it had been a draw, you couldn't really complain too much of how we played. I thought we were really good throughout the game. Stoke played well at times as well. You know, it was just a really exciting game to be there for. And when the goal did come, I don't think there was any doubt we were going to win it from then because we was on top at that point and creating a lot of chances. And just to really look at how we not necessarily the results, but how we played against Watford and Coventry. Feels like years ago now, but like at the start of the season compared to how they're playing now, it's just chalk and cheese, and it's so good to see. It was a really encouraging performance.
Yeah, that's already started to feel like it was a different season, never mind just over a month ago. I thought we deserved the goal and the win, up to ninth place. And a real positive was obviously a clean sheet, which was kind of the final box ticked, which was what was missing this season. And we got that. And after 3 campaigns, which have been pretty miserable at Loftus Road, our home record is starting to look pretty good. 7 points from 9. Stoke are probably going to, from their perspective, maybe point at that missed Manhoff header from under the bar at 0-0. It was a big moment. But we could say from a QPR perspective, the chance when Ball was still on goal and Johansson somehow saved that one. And even Vale's chance early on when he was basically one-on-one and didn't really catch it, he should have scored that. So we had multiple other big chances in the game. Stoke, for me, didn't really create much across the 90 minutes, despite having more of the ball. And it was another match where we had less possession. QPR's last 7 wins now, it's up to where we've had less of the ball. Didn't feel, though, like we only had 35% of the ball, did it?
No, no, not at all. I was surprised when I saw those numbers, to be honest, because I thought it was quite an even game. I thought we both had spells we were on top, but I think that when we've had it in the past where we haven't had much possession under Ainsworth and that, it's basically because we've just sat on the edge of our own box and just said have the ball and good luck to you. With how we're playing in a minute, it is trying to play on the counter attack a bit more. You've got a lot more pace in that side. They've addressed that this summer, and you can catch teams on the break. And with those two up front, you don't need to be making 100 and 150 passes around your centre circle. You can get up the field quickly. And I thought we did that well. And like you said, we had quite a few chances before we did score. It wasn't as though Stoke were all over us. I mean, fair play if they did have more of the ball. For me, it's what you do when you've got it that's more important. And with the attacking players we've got now and the way we set up the last few games, we're getting a lot more out of it when we have got the ball. And it's really exciting to watch.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you look at the stats, possession, pass accuracy, number of passes in the game, we were in the top 6 for all of those after the first few games, but we were down in the bottom 3. All of those stats now for QPR were down to 17th position, and yet we've won 3 in a row, and we've gone up the table the opposite direction. So, for me, it's just playing to our strengths, isn't it? It's exciting. It's genuinely more attacking than what we were offering up when we just kept the ball in our own half. And I do just hope we stick with this because, as we said a few weeks ago, Saturday night feels good regardless of how you win. And at the moment, I don't think we're a bad watch anyway. It's actually you're looking forward to the games, which I can't say we were a month ago. Now, we correctly predicted last week it would be the same starting 11, but what nobody could foresee was us only making one sub. I tried to look back when we last did it and it literally got too far. I couldn't even be bothered trying to find it in the end, but it doesn't happen often, it's safe to say. And it did feel unusual, didn't it?
It did, especially because of how strong the bench was. And like after an hour or so, we were like, well, we're well in this game. Who's going to come on and get the winner? Looking at the bench, there was so much quality on there. And even when we went 1-up, it was like, oh, will they bring on Field and try and shore up or Cook because Mbuenge looked like a red card waiting to happen. But, he didn't. But it showed he had a lot of faith in the 11 that started. And, you know, it worked out for us. I think that the fact that we didn't have a game midweek probably help that decision. I'll be surprised if you see that again at the weekend and when we've got a 3 game week. I think there'll be more changes. But it was good to see.
Yeah, I was just mainly surprised he didn't even use them to run the clock down. He could have made 2 subs
Mm.
on 91, 2 on 93. And I think the main concern when he wasn't making any changes was that hopefully it didn't backfire on him because we would have been saying it. Why didn't he make changes if Stoke could equalise in stoppage time or something like that? But we got over the line, and I agree. It's not going to be the same this week with it being the infamous 3 game week, as you say. And I just touched on Amadou Mbuenge, and there's two parts to this question I'm going to ask you because he's already one yellow card away from a suspension. But should he have seen red against Stoke anyway? And then another debate this week has been about him over celebrating in inverted commas after games. Where do you stand on those 2 points?
So, I mean, for the tackle, watching it live, I thought it was a red straight away, and I thought the ref got out a yellow. I thought, oh, he got away with that one. The fact he gave a drop ball is one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. I know it went for us, but that's a horrific decision. You see the replays, yeah, it should have been a red. I'm surprised he's got away with it, that they haven't gone back and given him a ban like they done with Paul Smith last season. But we'll take it. On the celebrating, I know he come from Mark Bircham, didn't he? I know I could see where he's coming from. It is a bit over the top, but it's quite a nice thing to have. It's nice to win at home. We talked about our home record for so long, and it's been poor. And you see, I think it's a trend at a lot of clubs. I mean, Jurgen Klopp brought it over with Liverpool. You know, players do these sort of celebrations with fans after they've won a game, and there's no real problem with it. It's quite nice to be part of. If you're not, if you don't like it, you just go, can't you? You haven't got to hang around and watch it. I've got no issues with it.
Yeah, I heard even. I mean, in terms of celebrating, I did used to hate it when away teams are doing that, but that's just because we've lost the game, isn't it? I think in terms of our fans, we've been starved of something to cheer about for so long. If they're doing that at the end of the game, it means we're winning. I don't really see the problem. I think it's good for the camaraderie in the squad as well. We have to remember, and Benge and a lot of the squad, they're young, aren't they? So it's a way of them like galvanizing themselves together. And we also see the kids in the stands, they love it. So it's not something I would have actually thought twice about until I saw all the debate
Yeah.
online about it this week. But hopefully, if we're doing it again on Saturday, it means we've won. And I think we'd be happy to see the team celebrating like that every week. In terms of his challenge, though, yeah, he was very lucky. There's a still image that's going around, isn't there, where his foot is
Yeah.
halfway up his leg. So yeah, he was lucky. I still never understand why professionals, when they have those bad touches, chase after it and lunge in because it always ends the same way. And yeah, he was like I say, incredibly lucky. I wanted to touch on the league in general as well because it's looking so tight already. There's only 4 points from second place down to 14th. Stoke, we obviously beat them. They've lost 2 of 6 games, but they're still second. Preston, who we all kind of agreed looked a bit of a limited side in the match against them, they're in the top 6. And they're above Coventry, who beat us 7-1. Really hard to get a read on, isn't it, so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly different in the league this year because you saw last season the top three were kind of miles better than everyone else and were well clear all season. And you kind of expect that again with the three coming down. They've got quite good squads, but Ipswich haven't been great so far and haven't got that many points. Leicester have got that points deduction hanging over them, and it's made the league a lot more open. And there is an opportunity for someone this year, that one of the ones that's been around the ploughs for a few years, maybe a Middlesbrough or a Coventry to sneak in. And yeah, you say that. I mean, it's still very early in the season, so you'd expect the league to be tight. But you look at, I think, what happened in the summer. Most squads did improve, and I think it's a very open league. It could be an exciting league this year. That I would say that the race for the playoffs looks quite a big one this year. There's quite a few sides you think they got a chance this season.
Yeah, you're right when you said that at the start there. The 3 teams who went up last year, they were already in the top 6 at this stage. And it feels to me this season is going to be people who are nowhere near where they're going to finish up. They say give it 10 games, don't they? I think we're going to have to give it 15, 20 games, if not more. It just looks wide open. So hard to predict. Nothing typifies that more than this week's opponent, Sheffield Wednesday. Who could have thought they'd go away to Portsmouth and get their first win of the season? And let's delve into Sheffield Wednesday now. And unfortunately, we have to start off the pitch. Hard for us to comment too much from the outside looking in, but Chanzeri, the owner, basically he's out of his personal cash, so payments and wages are constantly late. One of the stands has been condemned by the council. Players were sold in the summer just to basically keep the club ticking along. It's kind of a warning, Dave, isn't it, that this could happen to QPR if our owners weren't putting £2 million, that infamous amount every month to keep us afloat.
Yeah, I mean, you look at us and Sheffield Wednesday, the last 2 seasons has been pretty good parallels, hasn't there? We've both got a new manager in. They got Danny Roll, we got Cifuentes. Both look to be heading down, and we kind of improved in the same way in mid-table last year. But this summer has gone completely opposite directions, and you have to feel for their fans the mess they've got at the minute. And I've read today there's talks of them doing protests at the weekend, and it's I know we don't support Sheffield Wednesday, but you have to kind of support what they're doing. They're another club. You don't want to see them go under or face what they're having to, because, like you say, we're losing 2 million a month as far as we know, maybe more, maybe less, but we are reliant on our owners, and for all the criticism we can give of the owners and the way the club's run over the years, they do pay the bills, they keep the lights on, and I think we're quite lucky in that respect.
Yeah, God, if this was QPR, it's actually hard to sort how we'd feel. It must be absolutely heartbreaking.
Mm.
You just got to look at it from a fan's perspective, and they must feel their fans like they're punching the wall. He's ruining their experience of going to games. He's taking away their hope for this season, for the future. I think Chanzeri himself, he's got to the point where he's so unpopular. I just get this sense from the outside looking in that he actually wants their fans to suffer now, like out of spite. And I don't know how it's got to that situation. How somebody like that was ever allowed to take over the football club in the first place is a big question mark for the EFL, isn't it? And so, just for the sake of their fans and what they're going for, I'd probably like them to stay up, but because none of their fans deserve it. But every preseason prediction, and it literally was every preseason prediction, had them coming 24th. Has anything changed your mind on where they may end up?
Yeah, unfortunately, they probably will finish last, and I think most of their fans think they will as well. And the change that you'd hope for them is if they get a takeover, um, and then that can kind of change things around a bit because this squad isn't terrible. They've got some good players there. You know, they were pretty comfortable last season. I know they lost a few, but with all this happening off the pitch, just the feeling around the club, they just look like they're going to struggle this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to be down the bottom end all season long. There's even a very real threat I read about them being in administration next month if some
Mm.
payment deadlines aren't met. So on the pitch, they've only scored 5 goals. They didn't have a shot on target in the last home game against Bristol City. So despite that win at Portsmouth, I think my concern for them is even when I've watched clips of them this season, they seem to be playing with intensity, passion, desire, really fighting for it, and yet they're still 23rd. We're coming to that point in the season. We've said it, 3 game weeks, the winter where you get more injuries, and I think it's really going to stretch what's already for them a limited squad. So you do worry about it. You mentioned as well rumours of protests. I saw some things about them wanting to get the game called off, presumably fans going on and the pitch and sitting down, refusing to move. I do suspect they may be saving that for a game that's live on Sky to make maybe more of a stand, but it's
Mm.
something to watch out for. What have you seen about the protests and what QPR fans are asking to get involved with this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, the ask is that no one buys anything inside the ground, food and drink programs, merchandise, that sort of thing. So I'm sure QPR fans will go along with that and do that. They do a thing on 10 minutes with their scarf. They're selling black and gold scarves, and they're going to wave those after 10 minutes. And I think QPR fans will support them in that. The ones that were travelling up there, well, at the end of the day, we all support different teams. We're all football fans. You don't want to see another club going through this. I've got no problems with Sheffield Wednesday at all. So you kind of hope that the fans get their way and they can get a takeover in. They can get this guy out of the club. The sooner the better. Like you can certainly see that coming where they're going to run on and get a game abandoned. And like you say, one that's on Sky is likely to be the one where they try and do that because it's going to get as much. They want as much media attention as possible because you read about it on social media, but turn the TV on, you don't really mention it, do they? You don't really hear anything about what's happening at Sheffield Wednesday, and they kind of need to get the ball rolling and get more people involved. So yeah, I'm going up there Saturday, and me along with everyone else will be supporting them.
Yeah, it just comes down to empathy, doesn't it? If QPR are in the same position, you'd want their fans to support us and what we were asking them to do.
Yeah,
I think the feeling amongst their fans is what's the worst that can happen if they do protest? The EFL close the
yeah.
ground. Well, one of the stands is shut anyway. They're trying to send a message to the owners so there'll be no money coming in if they maybe have to play a game behind closed doors. So you might get dot points, but like you said, I think most of the fans feel they're going down anyway. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But going back on the pitch, they have been a real bogey side for QPR, haven't they, in recent years? Only one win in the last 8 games against them. Danny Roll was Marty Cifuentes' kryptonite, wasn't he? 1 point from the 4 games against them since they returned to the Championship. And even that took that Alfie Lloyd scrambled, chaotic last-minute equaliser. And Barry Bannon still everywhere and involved in everything every time we play them. But every year we say the same thing. Will we have a plan to stop him? We're going to struggle again if we don't stop him, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, every year we play him and we just give him the freedom of the pitch, and he's got a lot of ability, and he'll hurt you every time, and he will again if we do that at the weekend. You know, the way we're playing at the minute with Kone and Burrell up front, you think maybe you got to try and force him to defend a bit more. You know, maybe that'll work. Rather than having like someone man marking. But I'll be interested to see what Julien Stephan does, because he did mention it today in his press conference, talking about banning and needing to have a plan for him. And it is that simple with Sheffield Wednesday. If you can stop him, you've got a great chance of beating them. If you let him run right, like he did last week at Portsmouth, like I said, they've got some good players that could cause you problems.
Yeah, I saw one QPR fan joke. If they just played Barry Bannon, they'd probably still get a point against us because we struggle so much.
Yeah.
But usually for teams who haven't won at home, you're in turmoil and you can't find your own backside with both hands. QPR are usually the ones you want to play, aren't they? But hopefully this QPR side are made of different stuff. In terms of QPR this week, we had goalkeeper Ben Hamer come in on a short-term deal to cover for Joe Walsh whilst he's at injured. And we had a new deal for Michael Frey. What are your thoughts on his deal?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know. I know we're not allowed to know how long it's for, but it'd be interesting to know how long it's for. He's obviously dropped down the pecking order this year, Frey, and I think that's right. I think when you've got him and before you had Lyndon Dykes as your main striker, you're in trouble. But as a backup, I think he's a really good option. I think you can rotate a bit with Kone or play him and Kone up front together. I think he's a decent option, and I mean, I assume it's just for one more season that you would have thought with the contract. So it makes sense to keep him on rather than trying to do it at the end of the season. So it's good news, really.
Yeah, he's so unorthodox. He's an asset, isn't he? And
Yeah.
with less pressure on him to start the season, hopefully, now that he's fit, he can stay fit, make a big impact when he does start or come off the bench. I do wonder whether they needed to go in so early with a new deal. We maybe could have seen what his fitness was like this season and sorted it out later. But if we're going to be playing two up front, he's going to be needed. So probably makes sense. In terms of this game, obviously it's an away game, maybe changes the dynamic somewhat. But are you expecting him to name the same starting 11 for the second game in a row?
Yeah, quite possibly. I think he might do. I mean, I thought they were really good last week. They've really improved the last couple of games in how they play, and they're really settling into this slight. It's only a slight change of formation, but we're playing two up front. It seems to be working really well. Um, so yeah, I don't think he'll make too many changes. But probably the one when you go away, you'd look at maybe tightening up in midfield a little bit, maybe bringing in Hayden off field. But I thought Madsen probably had his best game for us last week. So I'll be surprised if they do change that. And, I think when you've got to give him a run in the side now.
Yeah, definitely. The obvious one to point to is maybe Isaac Hayden would come in to nullify Barry Bannon, like we just talked about. But I think we've got to take the game to them, play the same 11. Confidence must be high in the QPR ranks. So just make changes in midweek then if we need to. I think we've got to go for this game. The club have confirmed that Ilias Chair, Kwame Poku, they're now out until after this next international break. Jake Clark-Salter, he's back in training, but you think it's going to take him a while to get back to fitness. So I think the decent results have probably meant we don't have to rush any of them back, which is probably a good thing longer term. Now, you just mentioned him, Nicholas Madsen. It's one of the biggest turnarounds I can remember in someone's performance, QPR career. It's amazing for him that he's got to this level, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for so much of last season, he was just a passenger in the team, wasn't he? You wouldn't even notice he was playing half the time. And he's always had the ability on the ball. You can see he can pick a pass out, but he just wasn't involved in games enough. And you saw kind of a change towards the end of this last season. I thought he was a bit better the last couple of games, and he's really grown this season. And I thought last week he was excellent. Not just on the it was off the ball how much better he was. He was getting in and winning tackles. His positional play was a lot better. He was there to get on the end of things. Pick up loose balls. I thought he was very good, and you can see why he wants him in the side because of that forward pass to get the ball quickly into those forward players. That is an asset to have, and if he can do that and he get the defensive side of his game right, he'd be a real asset for us. Whether he can do it consistently or not, I mean, it remains to be seen. I hope he can, but certainly deserves a lot of credit. I mean, give him plenty of stick last season when he. I thought he was excellent on the weekend. A man in a match for me. I know there was quite a lot of options, but I thought he was really good.
Yeah, he is. He's looking really good. He's just a different player. You might as well call him a different name because he's so different
Yeah,
to last season. He couldn't win an aerial duel last season. We were always saying he's 6'4", but he doesn't jump. Now he's topping the charts. He's back in the box, blocking shots. It's even like they've taught him to run differently because that language style that made him look lazy and disinterested, it's kind of gone. He now just looks busier, doesn't he? He's popping up all
yeah.
over the place. And like you say, he keeps illustrating that ability to find the passes between the lines. When Saito is picking it up in the channel or in between their defence midfield, you look and it's Madsen who's finding him with those passes each time. And that's exactly why he's in the side. And Koke Saito, he was sensational against Stoke, wasn't he? He's someone who's going to have to play very well to take his place this season.
Yeah, I mean, when we spoke about it before we signed him, it was like, is it a good move or not to sign him? But he's been absolutely brilliant since he come back. He just looks such a different player, and it's a slightly different role he's playing. He's got more freedom to go where he wants. He drifts across the pitch, and he's just been really exciting. And he's got one goal. Yeah, he's got one already. I think he could get some more goals. I think he's been really good. Like as you say, it's difficult to see who's going to knock him out of the side, and that's going to prove a few problems for the manager because you've got people like Chair and Poku waiting in the wings, but he deserves his place in the team.
Definitely does, and I hate myself for this comparison, but for me, it was a performance a bit like a Berriese, a Delta Rat, in
Mm.
the fact that he was causing opposition problems every time he got on the ball, and that's where that feeling to those players was similar to me. Stoke were terrified of him; they just couldn't handle him in the second half. He obviously created the goal, and he's just hit the ground running. He's gone up so many levels from last season, not to the same levels as Nicholas Madsen, but he almost does feel like a different player from the Koke side before because of how much of a threat he is every single time he gets on the ball. And it's exciting to think that he's now a permanent QPR player. And again, it could just be a test of how long he's at the club if he keeps performing the way he is. Just predictions then to finish against Sheffield Wednesday. What are you thinking for this weekend?
I mean, you mean Charity Park Rangers normally turns up for these sort of games, don't they? But I think if we play as we have done the last few games, there's no reason why we can't get a result there. And, I think we've got to go there with confidence. The front two makes such a difference in occupying defenders and giving a bit more space to these wide players. And I think you've seen a lot more from them. And I think we're winning at the weekend. I think maybe 2-0, 2-1, something like that. I think we can go there and get a result and keep this run going.
Yeah, I think I'm going to repeat myself a little bit from what I said a few weeks ago when we played Wrexham, but it feels similar in that the first goal I think is important
Yeah.
because against Bristol City in their last home game, the fans were understandably up in arms once they went 1-0 down, 2-0 down, and you sense the atmosphere could turn toxic again if QPR can get ahead early in the game, and then that'll only help QPR on the pitch. So hopefully we can get the first goal, but I'm going 2-1 QPR, and because you like the same reason you just said, the attacking threat is just giving me more confidence than what we used to have. And that's it for us. Let us know your predictions in the comments, your thoughts on Stoke, Sheffield Wednesday, etc. And then we have the first midweek game of the season next Wednesday as we take on Oxford at Loftus Road. Brian and George will be on that show to preview that. And then Dave and I will be back this time next week for another away day trip to Bristol City. Stick with us then through a busy week. Thank you for watching in the meantime, and come on, you R's.